13 12 69. I don't want to pay for it. Maybe you do. We were talking last week to a bunch of the candidates in the New England by-election, and thank goodness we've got a bunch of them stepping up. In fact, they're substantially more than I was originally expecting, and certainly more than Barnaby Joyce was expecting. But I really didn't want him to go uncontested in this election. And a very good regular caller of ours, Mr. Kerry Koliadis, who rings this program regularly. He is a member of the Seniors United Party. He's a good fellow, and he's made me aware of his candidate in the New England by-election, who will be standing, obviously. His name's Warwick Stacey, and we've got the pleasure of having him on the line right now. Let's have a chat with Warwick. G'day, Warwick. How are you?
Good afternoon, Dean. I'm very well, thank you.
Mate, now tell us a bit about yourself, please.
Well, first of all, I'm an Australian. I was Australian-born. I was raised in Australia, born in Sydney, raised in a small country town in Victoria, came back to Sydney at the age of 13. I left Australia when I was 21. I travelled abroad because of my interest in languages.
Yep.
I went away for 3 years. I stayed for 15. And in that time, I managed to join the British Army. I stayed 8 years in the British Army. I worked in the Middle East afterwards as a freelance security consultant. I've worked for TNT, the Australian business, the global business in Germany and France. I returned to Australia with an Irish wife, an English baby daughter, and 2 Staffordshire Bull Terrier dogs, and established a business here during the during the recession we had to have.
Yep.
And despite everything that Keating threw at me, I was successful. I've worked in Asia. I spent 3 years in Asia, running a business there. I've served in the Army Reserve here in Australia for 9 years, and I am a disaffected Liberal. I was a member of the Liberal Party. I have ceased my membership, and I was very pleased to join the Seniors United Party. One of the things that really attracted it to me was, despite the fact it's a party for seniors, it's also a party for all Australians, because the line that really attracted me was that we want to leave a better Australia for those coming after us.
Indeed.
And what's happening now with the $500 billion worth of debt, that really probably won't have a tremendous impact on me, because I and my generation of seniors will be gone by then. But certainly those coming after us, those who are approaching that senior status, and the younger generations, that's going to have a dreadful impact on them.
I could not agree more, and that's what it's all about. It's about our children, those that come after us, and those of us who care enough to step up and do something about it. And you've led a very interesting life, and you've ticked all of the boxes. And so, mate, it's a good party. You've got some other good candidates in there, and people who you're associated with. Again, I mentioned Mr. Kerry Koliadis, who I think is one of the most passionate Australians I've ever come across, and he speaks very highly of you as well. So I'm just hoping that you do well in this New England by-election.
Thank you, Dean. It's very kind of Kerry. I mean, one of the things that we're pushing really is, and doing my research in order to stand and to be able to speak with some knowledge, I'm absolutely appalled at the waste and the mismanagement of major projects over the last 10 years. Nearly every major program that governments have undertaken have been ill-conceived, they're poorly planned, they've been badly executed, they're always over budget, and they're late. There's outrageous waste and fraud, and then in the end, we don't actually get what was written on the can. They do not deliver, and that has had an impact. And of course, it means that our debt has blown out now, $510 billion. I heard yesterday, but also I shoot it home to appalling leadership. Look, as a former soldier, leadership was taught, is taught in the major Western armies. And none of the leaders three of the 4 prime ministers we have had in the last 10 years have displayed no qualities of leadership. Those qualities of military leadership that are essential have been completely missing in action from 3 out of our 4 prime ministers.
I couldn't agree more. You sound like exactly the type of candidate that they need out there. And obviously you've got your eyes on the big picture, which is what we want in our politicians. When it comes to local issues, are there any that you are particularly aware of that you'd like to fix if you are elected?
Well, look, I think there are local issues, but also the issues that face Australia face the people of New England. And those are unemployment, energy costs, and debt. Now, there's talk, of course, about the move of the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority from Canberra to Armidale, and I think that's a very good idea to decentralise the bureaucracy, to get bureaucracy out of Canberra and indeed out of Macquarie Street. But I think it's another example of an ill-conceived and poorly planned push, because we've heard that 30 or 40, 50 of the researchers and scientists have refused to move. They've resigned, and as a result, that authority has lost those researchers, those scientists, that corporate knowledge, that experience. And obviously there was either no consultation with them, no consideration of how this could be done, how this might be done, perhaps a small part of the authority, those who wanted to move to Armidale to be aligned with the university there. But this is 2017. In this day and age of communications, it's not beyond the wit of departments to actually communicate daily via internet, via Skype, via all these means. And so it's just another example of a poorly planned, poorly considered project, and that it appears to be falling over. Agriculture, of course, is an issue there, and what goes with that, and the property vegetation plans, land clearing, the use of property, and so on. And again, I think it's just these are other examples of fiat, government by fiat, from Canberra, from Macquarie Street, telling the farmers how to farm their land. There should be good regulation. There need to be laws, but I do feel that there is too much regulation. It is delivered upon our farmers by fiat. They're told to like it or lump it, and it's a failure of delivery. And so all of these projects have been just poorly planned and poorly conceived, and that needs to change. Poorly delivered. It seems that our civil service has lost its analytical firepower. The delivery of all of these services and projects fail. Something has happened in the last 10 years. They're drinking something or smoking something in Canberra, and it has to change.
Yeah.
It has to change. And let me say, if I may, sorry if I sound like Kevin Rudd now, look, a vote for the Nationals, I have respect for Barnaby Joyce, but a vote for the Nationals, a vote for Labor is a vote for a continuation of what we have had for the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's time for a change. I couldn't agree more. Your candidacy, sorry, I've got a sore throat today. Your candidacy, I can't even speak today. Your candidacy was announced on Wednesday, and so will you be hard on the campaign trail for the next couple of weeks?
Indeed, look, the campaign manager, Chris Osborne, who is also the chairman of the party, and I were up in New England last week. We're going back again this week, and of course, as we get closer, we'll be staying up there. We've been through Armidale and Tamworth and Scone, so we intend to cover as many towns as we can, to meet as many people as we can, and as many businesses as we can. One of the things that I find intriguing, and that is a policy of ours, and that is to make politics local. I work with the Liberal Party here, and I realise that I don't think politicians work hard enough. Now, they will protest, and of course, they'll always say that they are hard-working members. Sorry, they're working hard for their members. But by what I mean, and they are working hard to maintain their profile and to ensure that they are re-elected. But they aren't involved in the spending of funds and the delivery of major projects in their electorates. A classic example was, I read an article recently about refugee settlement in Fairfield.
Yep.
And in the article, the mayor of Fairfield was mentioned by name, the president of the Chamber of Commerce was mentioned by name, various other government departments, state governments and federal government departments were mentioned by name, or the individuals among them. But the 3 Labor Party members, 1 federal and 2 state, in whose electorates Fairfield was situated, were not mentioned. The mayor of Fairfield said that apparently there was $600 million set aside by the federal government for refugee settlement. They hadn't seen a dollar of it at that time. And so where were these MPs? Missing in action.
Yeah.
Having created the problem, they're off doing other far more important things and actually overseeing the delivery of services that their respective governments have supposedly set up in their electorates. And so I think the services that they could look at is the Gonski funding, talking to the schools. I'm sure they do, but do they really get drilled down to each individual school and find out what their needs are, their specific needs, in terms of resources or facilities? Looking at NDIS, are they on top of that? That's turning into a complete failure.
Yeah.
A third of the agencies involved have been deemed to be competent. There is gouging in the pricing, and so on. So federal MPs, state MPs should work together.
All right.
Senators overseeing them.
Mate, we've run out of time, but I do have to go. But I certainly do appreciate you coming on the program and letting everyone know what it was you had to do this afternoon.
Good. Many thanks indeed, Dean.
Much appreciated. Thank you, everyone. That was Warwick Stacey of the Seniors United Party of Australia. We've got a commercial break to get to. We'll be back on the other side.